Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Steff Noble on the podcast. She's a natural figure pro, stage posing coach, personal training and strength coach. She's coming to us all the way. Look at that. Yeah. And she's coming to us all the way from Leeds, UK. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Steff, thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to make that change and adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Of course. Okay, so a wee bit about me. I'm living in Leeds in the UK, but I'm from Scotland, so you'll hear a real mix of accents. But a very brief synopsis, I've come from a professional dance background. So I grew up dancing from a very young age, training through different means, ballet, dance, contemporary, all these different means of dance training. And when I took a step away from sort of the professional dance stage, I was still extremely active, and fitness, of course, was a huge element to my dance background. I had to have a strong core, I had to build my fitness, and I had to be very athletic to be able to perform. And so I didn't want to just come away from dance and drop off the face of the planet. So I kind of just zoned all my energies into the gym. And that's really when my lifting started, understanding resistance work, how to lift heavy. And I got hooked instantly. It was a case of just throwing myself into the gym and setting myself small goals to begin with, things like fat loss goals. I set myself quite a lot of endurance goals at the time, and just really understanding how my body worked in the gym. And I just started to love the changes that I was making and saw a lot of shape coming through in detail and tone, and realized that, hey, I can really sculpt my physique into something I want here. I can actually look at maybe a girl on the front of a magazine and say, here's how I can maybe start my journey to looking like that. And that's sort of how it all progressed, really. So my progression into the health and fitness industry started there. And then I went on to learning and understanding the principles of anatomy. I did my personal training qualifications, and then I took that onto my nutrition qualifications. And then I started to, of course, start coaching and training people. So we had my fitness journey and also me training and working with other people to really understand the benefits of the health and fitness industry and what health and fitness can do for the average person, as well as an athletic competitor. So, and then of course I started my competitive journey into figure. And it was actually one day I was in the gym and I got approached by somebody who was like, you're in really good shape. And at that point, I was trying to get to 10% body fat. And I'd set myself a target to get to this body fat level before I went on holiday. And at that point, as a female, 10% is quite low. I was quite conditioned. And this person came up to me and said, are you training for a show? And I was like, what do you mean a show? Had no idea of competitions, competitive, like what I could do in terms of bodybuilding. And he said, when you come back from your holiday, if you're still holding that condition, you should go for a show. And that's where it all began. And so I started to look at the likes of people like Nicole Wilkins. There's a couple of big figure names in the UK as well, Louise Rogers and a few other people that I just latched onto. And it was like my eyes popped out of my head, because for me, I could see health and fitness, but I could also see the stage performer, the aesthetic, which is my dance background. So the two kind of just went like that. And I just started then my journey onto natural competing. And since then, started in 2012, my first figure competition, right up until now. That's 7 years now that I've been competing on and off, and I reached my natural pro status. I'm a DFAC figure pro. Last year I got my pro card. So I've been working towards that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Especially just hearing about all that hard work, because I've had some people that come on and in their first show, they win their pro card. And it's like, I love hearing the stories of the people that really, it takes them a while, just because it really, for them, it seems to really, they're savoring it more. Because I've had people, like I said, their first show, they get it. And then they're like, oh, now what do I do? because
Yeah.
they have like nothing else. But I always sort of like to make the comparison or the judgment. If you were to walk into a gym with 100 people in it, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes to their
Yeah.
diet, their nutrition. I mean, how many reps they do, what exercise they do. Was that a struggle for you at first, sort of figuring out what worked best for you? Because I always like to say, if you were to go up to someone and say like, wow, this body part looks great on you, what did you really train to get that muscle popping? What works for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you.
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, everyone is so different. For me, I'll be honest, at the beginning of my fitness journey, I went into the gym with an idea of a body part I wanted to train, and I did it all based on feeling. So if I felt like, let's say, doing a back pull down, for example, I do a lateral pull down, I would start on a moderate weight and I would probably do around 10 to 12 reps. And then I would up it and I might do 10 reps. Then I would up it again and I would do 8 reps. So I always went by feel, and I went by the last final 2 reps. If I was just on that point of that was just about failing, but not so much that I was, out of form and my form was going all crazy, then that was perfect for me. And some days that would be within a rep range of, I could do volume 12 to 20. Some days I would then narrow that off and go nice and heavy, but go low. Now, obviously, nobody has all that information to their fingertips to begin with. So to the newbie going into the gym, to the female who wants to start looking good and feeling good, I always say a rep range between 10 and 12 is a really good place to start, because it gets the muscle, it gets a lot of blood into the muscle, it gets you feeling the movement, and of course it is going to adapt the muscle over time with that stimulation. So that's a good place to start. Certainly as you become more advanced, you can start looking at the different various rep ranges to progress. But I always say to all my clients as well, it's about mind-muscle connection. You have to feel the muscle working. It doesn't matter what weight you've got on the particular exercise. It matters about how you're feeling it. Because if you don't feel the muscle working, say it's a bicep curl, for example, if you're feeling your trap come in or your delt come in or your pecs working, that's not that muscle isn't being performed correctly. So it's about, doesn't matter the weight, drop it down light, get the technique right first, feel the movement, understand the connection, feel it here, feel it in the muscle, and then you've got a perfect rep. Then you can go to time with your different rep ranges.
Absolutely. I mean, I cannot preach that enough, especially for all the other guests that I have on. I mean, just feeling that, because we have so many guests just the form, the first thing that you really got to learn first, because the form with everything, I mean, you can see some people in the gym who might, like you said, like would say bicep curls, they might be curling like 40 pounds, but but they're doing the wrong form. So it's like with proper form, they'd probably be only able to do like 20 pounds. So it's just finding the proper form first, and then you can find out, how much you can do with those. I mean, that's what I always recommend also to people that really just are starting out. But I always love to ask, what is one body part? Everyone always has that one body part when they start training that really, really takes off, and they don't have to train as much just because it's just naturally gifted. And then they always have that one body part that's really lagging behind, that they really have to train all the time just to keep it up. What was that for you? What was the body part that really took off for you? And what's the body part that you always need to train so much?
Yeah, okay, cool. Really good question. And it's the same body part I'm training today. So the way your body is made up, the structure of your body, if anybody coming into competing or just generally getting fit, my advice would be look at your body shape first. If you've already got a really strong big back like me, so I've got a big V taper, I've got big lats, big erectors, they don't need as much stimulation because they're already there. And of course, I'm going to hit them with lots of different things. But certainly, I wouldn't say to myself, okay, I'm going to go and put 2 back days in my week's workout. Because for me, it's just a silly thing to do, because it's going to detract, it's going to make that body part so much bigger and throw my balance out completely. So for me, just taking me as an example, I'm all limbs. I've got really long arms, I've got really long legs, and I've got this tiny little torso. And my legs take a lot more work. So my quads and my hamstrings, I need to absolutely smash them to pieces to really grow them, to catch up with the dominance of my upper body. So my delts and my biceps, my back are my strongest points. My weakest points, although they're still good, but they need a lot more work, are my quads and my hamstrings and my glutes. So for somebody like me, my program consists of three lower body days and 2 upper body days. My 2 upper body days are just shoulders. My 3 lower body days are 1 day on quads, 1 day hamstrings and glutes, The other one, I'll do a high volume glute focused accessory work to really hit my legs 3 times a week to help them stimulate and grow. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm exactly the same with you where my back, I mean, I could work back once a month and it would still look good. I mean, it's just
yeah,
naturally, but I'm also 6'3", so that's, you know, when I need to work legs a lot just because my legs are just naturally just
naturally like
super small. Yep, naturally small legs. It's a blessing and a curse, I guess, but it's just
it is.
yep, 100%. But how long was it before you started working out before you had, like you
Yeah.
said, you got approached?
When I was approached, I knew that I'm one of these people that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all in
Mhm.
and I'm not going to cut corners. So I knew that I didn't want to just grab this idea of competing and then jump on stage. So I was actually training for that first competition for about a year and a half before I decided to jump on. And I won my very first show, which is what I went out to set to achieve. It was a natural qualifier. It was the first, I'd never been to see a show. I'd had this idea in my head of what I wanted to look like. And I just worked my ass off for the year and a half to look like that, to jump on stage. So again, it's another recommendation I always have to people who come to me and they're like, oh, Steff, I really want to compete. Okay, let's look at your physique, because competing's fun, but do you want to jump up and do it justice and really make a mark? Step up there and so the judges go, oh wow, okay, that person's actually really come with a package worthy of looking at future shows as well. For me, it was about an intelligent decision rather than I want a trophy, I'm going to do a show, because I knew that the way I am, I don't want this just to be a flyby thing. I want to actually make a mark. So yeah, that's kind of how I approached it.
And nutrition-wise, I mean, I always love to discuss the nutrition. What was probably the biggest change that you had to make when adapting that healthy and fit lifestyle nutrition-wise?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I've been lucky in the sense that I've come from a background where with my dance, I've always had to understand nutrition anyway. But certainly when I started to compete or I started to go for that fat loss goal, I had to learn a lot more about manipulating calories and what worked and what didn't work. And so when you're looking at diets, you've got all these fad diets out there that people kind of latch onto. You've got low carbohydrate diets, keto diets, high protein, high carb diets, etc., all of that. And I have played with all of them. I've done keto diets, I've done low carb diets, I've done, high carbohydrate protein diets. You've got to find something that works for you, and it can take a lot of trial and tribulation. For me, I say get back to basics. Be really, really clear that energy in and energy out is all it is. It's calories versus what you expend. So, if you're sitting behind a desk all day and you're eating 2,500 calories and you're not moving, your fat's not going to be moving either. If you are, active and you're burning some of that 2,500 calories and, maybe 1,000 to 1,200 of those is energy expenditure during the day from walking around, doing your chores, going to the gym, doing whatever, then you're going to be in a calorie deficit and you're going to be dropping. And it's not rocket science. It's simple stuff. It's calories in versus calories out. So you need to find a baseline. You need to work out kind of how much you're burning on an average day, maybe by using a Fitbit or a tracker or something like that. And then you need to base your calories of a good balance of fats, carbs, and proteins, simple stuff, nice and clean foods, and give it a real go to see your body change and adapt. Science says that if you are eating less than what you are doing, you're going to lose weight. And it doesn't matter what kind of diet you're on. That's just science. For me, I mean, the diet-wise, high protein and high carbs is certainly what works for me.
Yeah.
So.
And I always got to tell people, make sure that you find out how much specifically you can lose. Because I always like to say, people are different body shapes and sizes. People lose calories differently. I mean, one person while running, 40 minutes could lose, hundreds of calories more than the next guy who's running the same amount. So definitely just make sure, don't just take the general idea where you're like, oh, this is how many calories. Just make sure that you write down, and especially for some of those machines where you can write in, like how tall you are, what your weight is. So because that really, really helps find out what exactly calories you're losing. Because you don't want to, be losing more calories than you think that you're losing, or losing less than you think, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh my god, I'm putting on weight when I'm not supposed to. I should be at a deficit. So definitely go and get that out. Now, one of my favorite questions actually asked is, you can tell we're both kind of pale individuals. What was that like, getting that tan on for the first time for your shows? We always have guests come on and talk about, like everything really seems to pop out. You see muscles that you never even knew that you had. What was that experience like for you when you put that tan on?
Yeah, kind of crazy actually. I'd say that if I look at my whole competitive history, when the very first time I put the tan on, I used something I don't know if they've got this in America, but in the UK, they've got something called Dream Tan. It's actually banned in most competitions in
Yep.
the UK now, but back in 2012 when I did my first show, it was like slapping it on, like it was everywhere. There was just Dream Tan everywhere because it's you have to pat it.
Mhm.
And it's like a golden shimmer on Dream Tan. So you look like a statue. And I remember putting it on backstage and actually feeling really gross, feeling really sticky and everything else because it is like that. But of course, the look you bring with it is quite spectacular
Yeah.
actually. Underneath the lights,
Mhm.
the shimmer of the gold, etc., looks amazing. So backstage, I had no idea. I'll be honest. I was kind of looking around at these other girls, thinking, no chance. I'm not going to place here. But I knew I brought the best I could, so I thought, well, I'll give it my best go. It was only till after that I saw the photos that I could see how the tan really makes such a huge difference to the physique, especially with that slight bit of glaze on top. People forget the glaze. The glaze is really important because if you don't use it, you mat out. You look flat and blurry and a bit blocky under the stage lights. A bit of glaze on top just helps pop the definition and bring the detail out in all of the muscle that you're trying to obviously show to the judges. So, but then flash forward, to my pro show last year, I used liquid sun rays and dark as tan, and the graininess and how conditioned I was, I won't lie, I even freaked myself out. I was looking at myself going, wow, like paper thin skin, but I love that dense look. So the tan is everything when it comes to showing your muscle definition at the end of the day.
Is there a reason why that is banned, that Dream Tan in the UK?
Honestly, I think it's because of the mess it makes
Yeah.
rather than anything else. Certainly, the venues here have a real problem with it because it does just get everywhere. I don't think it's anything specifically from an aesthetic point of view. I think it's more just because the stuff is, of course, it doesn't seep in. It's just placed, kind of patted on top. So, yeah, you can imagine what the venues are like.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I always love to say because the people don't realize like when you put that stuff on, you do basically have to become a statue for that whole day or how many other days
Yeah,
afterward.
yeah, yeah.
You sit on anything, it's gonna get covered on. You got to bring your own bed sheets. It's just a lot of people don't understand just all the struggle that goes into just looking that good on stage. Not just the training wise, but also the tanning wise. It's just another huge thing that really comes
Yeah,
in.
and I mean the process of the tan itself is a whole week thing.
Mhm.
It's like the preparation, the exfoliation, the skin prep, all of that, and then the day before getting your base tan, layering it, all of that. It is a little art in itself.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And what was your process like wearing those high heels? We had so many people come on where that can be just a struggle for them. Was that a thing? Was that something that you really had to work on, or was it something that you were just already wearing high heels a lot, being a dancer, maybe, so that you really weren't really wasn't that much of a struggle?
yeah, for me, again, I'm kind of lucky in that respect. I I've done a lot of point work in block shoes as well, so my ankle mobility is relatively good. Walking in heels, though, it still is really important that you learn. I mean, I'm a posing coach, so obviously I'm going to talk about the benefits of that. Ankle Girls don't realize this, but ankle stability when it comes to posing on stage is so important, and that's actually, there's a lot of exercises you can do for ankle stability to be actually nice and poised in the shoes themselves. So if you're a girl that struggles with wearing stiletto heels or heels at the best of times, regardless of being on stage, then certainly there's things you can do to really strengthen your ankles on the run up to a show. But posing heels, I love them. I love strutting my stuff up and down the stage. So it's certainly something that every girl needs to make sure they embed into their competition prep process on the way up to the stage, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I always like to ask all my guests I have on, whether they be, bands or health and fitness people, what does that feel for my bands? I always like to ask, what is that feeling like performing live on stage in front of all those crowds and just feeling that rush? That also applies to a lot of my guests that I have on the compete. What is that feeling like for you when you get to walk on stage and show off, all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on, really getting down and trim to that figure that you present? What is that feeling like for you when you finally get to go on and be able to show it off?
That's a really good question. It's funny for me because I think you pin everything on that one day, and of course, the nerves are really high. There's a mixture of relief that it's coming and it's there, and you're about to jump on stage, And then there's also that mixture of like anxiety, I guess, because you know that you've put every single drop, your blood, sweat, and tears into this process. And that 20, 30 seconds sometimes that you get in the lineups, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 seconds, you never really know, is all that counts. So it's a mixture of relief, sheer love for it, because I am just a true competitor at heart. Like, I love getting up there and showcasing what I've got and being competitive. And yeah, just it's kind of quite an emotional thing, I think, because you know how much perhaps, and there's a huge mental thing that you go through to get to that point. So you know how much it can mean to you. So for me, it's a real mix of things: relief, absolute exhilaration, and quite emotional. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like I always say, do that one thing that just brings you that amount of joy. If you can find that in life, you'll be fine. Because I mean, for me, like being on the mound when I was a pitcher and just being with me and the batter, I mean, that was a moment too where just like when you're on stage, you just feel like everyone's watching you, but it can make you feel so alive. And I just highly recommend everyone out there just find that one thing in life that makes you feel like that. And I mean, everything will be fine. But one of the big things that I always love to talk about that isn't really discussed, especially on Instagram, is that most people don't realize. I mean, I have friends that come up to me and they say, like some of these bodybuilders that you have on the show, they just must be, jacked and ripped 365 days out of the year. They don't realize that, when you are looking at that stage look, that is a look that is going to last for probably maybe not even the rest of the day for a lot of these competitors. It is a look that is not sustainable. I mean, you are going to put on weight afterwards. Was that ever a struggle for you? And I mean, even for the people that you do stage coaching for, I mean, some of them might, have that complaint. We've had so many people on here that talk about, like how they get anxious or they get depressed knowing that like all this hard work that I put into it, I am going to have to eventually put on weight though again. Was that a struggle for you at all? And even if it wasn't, I mean, what were some tips that you have for people mentally so that they don't just freak out and just like a lot of people sometimes do and they binge and then they end up gaining like 40 pounds within the next 4 weeks?
Yeah. I think every single person I know in this fitness industry at some point has had a rebound and an epic fail post work, post show. I think we've all been there, and it's always, almost certainly, the first or second couple shows you ever do. You come off stage, you think you're totally invincible, you start eating all the food, and suddenly there's that thing called body fat, and your head hasn't had time to catch up with the look you brought to stage with the look you've now got post show. So that's where the mental kind of the trauma stuff kind of comes in. And I've been there. My personal experience, of course, was after my first show. I came off stage. I'd actually got with somebody at the time, and I fell mad over heels in love with this guy, and we were going out, we were eating out all the time, we were just I was drinking wine, etc. The show was amazing, I'd won the show, and I was suddenly in this bubble with him, doing all these things, but my body wasn't ready for that at all, and my mind had a complete flip out. So I can kind of reflect back on that experience, and like everything I ever do, I learn from it. And I think a lot of people do, but a lot of people struggle with this, hugely struggle. I went through the whole thing, anguish, resentment for my body, how I felt, I'd done all this work to get into the best shape of my life. And then suddenly I was back to kind of square one, if not looking a bit worse, because I was more muscly, and then I had fat on top of the muscle as well, so I just looked like this big dense thing. And I put 16 kilos on in the first 4.5 weeks post show my first year, and I learned a huge lesson. I got through it. It was pretty tough, and I said to myself that on the next show, if I do come back to competing, which I eventually did, of course, the following year, that my reverse was going to be set before I even did a competition prep. And since then, the reverse diet coming off show and straight into a planned control reverse out has been paramount for my success in my off season. And if you get it right, it can really, really actually add some good muscle gain in the first 4 to 6 week period post show, with just an incremental increase of calories, keeping your body fat levels consistent, but just trickling things up. Taking back the cardio, starting to actually balance things out a wee bit, and making sure you've got somebody around you to support you through that as well, which is huge. Having a coach or somebody to actually help you with a reverse diet to keep your head straight, to keep you balanced, is very important. So I've been through all of it, but certainly it's good to get to a point And all my competitors who come to me, the first thing I say is, you have to be ready for after it.
Yes.
It's the most important bit. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. That's just something, I mean, the more, and like you said, just having a coach to help you out, or just having just any support system is one of the best things that you can have. I mean, that's one of the answers that we hear a lot on the show. So again, you guys just find that support system and just make sure, I mean, you are going to put on weight. But just realize, it's also just a natural part of the process. I mean, a lot of people talk about, like, let's be honest, when you do get really lean or whatever, you might not be in the best of mood a lot of the times. And one of the big things, especially if it gets cold outside, that's another thing that a lot of people complain about. They get cold really easily. It's like, so you're naturally going to want to, put on a few, especially now that we're entering the winter sort of season, you might want to put on, a few more pounds to, make it a little bit easier during the winter time at least.
Yeah. I was going to say something on that as well. The stage is a small portion of your journey. The stage is a tiny, tiny bit. What do you want to look like in life? How do you want to feel in the body you've got or the one you've built for life, for day to day? Because, you can look at my Instagram now. I'm deep in off season right now, but I still hold condition in off season. I still hold like a good balanced fit physique because that's how I want to feel in my own skin year round. I don't want to look like a shredded machine all year round, but I also don't want to look overweight.
Yep.
So it's kind of, you've got to find a look you really want for you to feel good in your own skin, because day to day, you're not thinking about competing. You're thinking about that cute little dress you want to wear on a weekend or, like other things like that. So you want to feel, I'm doing this for 360 days a year, not just one day in a year,
Oh, absolutely. And I always, this is my number one stereotype that I love to bust. And this, I mean, especially with you being a personal training and strength coach, I mean, it's gotten a lot better over the last 5 years because of Instagram, but there's still a lot of women that believe that if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and put on, 50 pounds, or I'll translate into the metric system, 20 kilos of muscle, of muscle overnight. I mean, I always like to say, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I'd be a very, very rich man. But did you ever have that fear at all when you were starting out? And even if you haven't, I mean, being a personal training and strength coach, I bet you've heard that, dozens upon dozens of times. What is your response to that?
Yeah, okay, cool. And certainly for myself, I'm just like, nah, I just want to get hench. And if you've got something that can give me 20 kilos of muscle in one night, I'm game. But
that's what I always say. I'd say I'd be one of the first people to sign up. I would pay that person thousands of dollars to be my trainer if they found the secret like that.
Yeah, that's all on glutes and legs.
Yeah.
But no, my competitors that come to me, or just general lifestyle clients, most of my clients are just general lifestyle clients. And they'll say, oh, Steff, I don't want to get too muscly. I don't want to look like, no disrespect, but I don't want to look too much like you, and it's a difficult thing to try and explain to a woman that it's physically impossible to look big, muscly, and manly. And I actually sometimes take them into the studio and I say, right, here's me on stage. Here's me standing next to you in a studio. Okay. Now I get them to study sort of my physique in a way, and it clicks that what I have is relative. The leaner you get, the more appearance of big, full muscles you have. But generally, day to day, a woman will sculpt and tone the muscle, and it depends really on the amount of body fat at how dense that can look. Do you see what I mean? Yep. And I'll just try and explain it to them in the sense that, lifting a 20 kilo dumbbell and doing 20 squats is not going to develop big, beastie, muscular legs. But what it will do is lift your butt and tighten, tone your legs so that the muscle itself is actually going to help benefit the overall shape of your legs. And then I'll also explain the difference between muscle weighs more than fat. And the more we use resistance work in the gym, the more fat we burn, the more muscle we build, the less fat we've got. So we generally are going to probably weigh about the same, if not a wee bit more. So that's where the head screw comes in, because they think, oh my God, I don't want to get fat and I don't want to put weight on, but actually muscle weighs more than fat in the first place. If you're dropping fat and building muscle, the weight might not go anywhere. And that's always the one that you kind of have to explain. So
absolutely. I mean, I always love to tell the story of when I was in college and, getting bigger and stronger. One of my really good friends, she would always say, Ryan, you're going to the gym. I really want to go with you, but I'm just afraid of getting too bulky. I don't want to get muscular. And finally, one day I just told her, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs or when we go out to eat weighs a lot more than a lot of the dumbbells in the gym. And you're not putting on any muscle from lugging that thing around all the time. So
that's exactly it.
That finally convinced her. And then she went into the gym, and it's one of those things things where it's like, you just got to try it. Cause I mean, it's like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if you go into the gym and touch a weight? You're going to get healthier. I mean, it's like,
Exactly.
that's the worst thing that's going to happen, because like I always say,
Yeah.
like people just don't realize the
No.
amount of training and hard work, and the nutrition aspect is 90% of it for a lot of people, where they
Yeah.
just think, they can go in and touch one weight and that everything's going to be different. It's like, no, it's not. It's so hard. I mean, I will admit that there are, out of, the 100% of women on the planet, there's probably about 5% of them that are just genetically blessed where they could put on a lot of muscle from touching weights. That's just their freak genetics. But then a lot of them, are doing other things that other than, they might be taking a few things.
Well,
but
yeah, because that's the other side of it, of course. Especially in the competitive world, assisted athletes are aesthetically slightly different. And, for some girls looking at that, they'll go, well, that's not what I want to look like. And you kind of have to explain, well, that's not going to happen because it's a completely different set of rules going down that path. You know what I mean? It is difficult to get women to understand it, but certainly what I find is initially most women will just start. When they start to see the benefits of the resistance training and then how the nutrition can start changing their body, actually that disappears. That thought disappears. And suddenly they're like, get me under the weights because it's working, But yeah, it's the taboo of touching weights will make you will make you look like a man. It's really finding habits and ways of thinking, mental strength tactics as well to get a woman to understand that that's just not going to happen at the end of the day. No.
Absolutely. And now also you're a stage posing coach, and we talked about this a little bit before we started talking now, but one of the things that I love to talk about is that a lot of people don't realize that for a lot of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing for them. It's harder than their training, it's harder than their nutrition, just because people don't realize, I mean, it's so hard. They got to be flexing all the muscles basically at the same time. They have to hit the perfect lighting. It can be very, very difficult. What are some tips and tricks that you like to tell all these competitors that you're working with? Because like I say, for some of them, it's a huge shock just to realize that is such a hard thing to do in order. Because I could always say, I mean, you can be an excellent driver. You can never be a perfect driver. The same thing goes with posing. You can be a very good poser. You can never be a perfect poser. It's always something that is ever evolving.
That's true. Posing done correctly is like a cardio workout in itself. It is extremely challenging, and you should be finding it extremely challenging if you're doing it correctly. But the essence to good posing is to hold these poses but make them look effortless. So they should look like, some of the top posing coaches, people like Kenny Wallace, etc., the IFB pros, will explain it like this, that, it should look like as easy as brushing your teeth or something that you do naturally every single day. When I have a competitor come in for posing, I start with foundations, and we start from the ground up. We literally start from how the foot placement, how we use the shoes or use our feet planted on the floor, how we activate the legs. And it's like a transformer. It's legs all the way up through to the hips, through to the upper body and the torso, how we then flare the lats, how we bring up the shoulders, how everything starts to pop. And it's looking at every single minute detail as we build from the ground floor up to actually create the final aesthetic. And so many people don't realize that so much of it comes from using the floor and grabbing the floor, tensing the floor, using different positioning with our feet. How we actually then transition is extremely important as well. So you've got the foundations of the poses. Then we have to find out ways for that particular specific physique to transfer and transition in between the poses for them to make it look fluid and effortless and bring it to life. So every competitor has their own personality and their own aesthetic drawing. I call it the drawing, for the judges to be able to really look and continue to keep focus on that physique because they're bringing something unique to the stage through their posing. It's again as well all about aesthetic and shape and tenacity as well. Like the competitor needs to bring out a ferociousness to their physique to really draw the judges in and make them go, wow, not only have they got the shape and the physique and the condition and the muscle, but they're captivating. And they've got something that is what, in my opinion, is the essence of bodybuilding. It's stage art. It's aesthetic art. It's bringing out a personality through a physique. So yeah, you can play a lot with posing, and good posing coaches. I mean, in my opinion, every single competitor must have a posing coach. Must. It's paramount. You want to be embedding this at least 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks into your prep and be doing this every single week with a coach or with, practicing it through the time. So with me, I work with my clients every single week, and I give them videos in between of things that they need to go away and work on. And yeah, it's a real building process, and it's a very intimate process as well. You need to get to know your client and bring the best out of them, because it's a confidence building part of the process as well. So
absolutely. And it's like a lot of things that I end up, saying about, especially people that compete, there's so many minute things that the general public just doesn't understand, really go into it, that really just add up to overall that presence that they have on stage, and just the posing aspect as well. But what is your favorite figure pose and least favorite figure pose?
Okay. So my favorite figure pose probably would be my back pose, because I believe shows are won from the back.
Yep.
A huge, big taper, nice, tiny, narrow waist with sweeping quads and tight glutes from the back is just a fabulous standout pose. You look at the likes of people like Candice Lewis and your top level pros, Sydney Gillen, who's obviously just taken as well. These girls, when they turn to the back, you're just floored, absolutely floored. So that's probably going to be my favorite figure pose from the back. My least favorite figure pose, it's very difficult actually, because all the federations have different poses for their categories. So in the UK, some of our figure poses have our hands above the head, like this.
Wow, yeah.
So we have the hands are up with a front double bicep. Yeah. We also have abs and thigh shots, so you show the abs. Now, from the UK poses, I don't like the females doing an abs and thigh shot. I don't like it. I think it's a very masculine pose, and I think figure is all about presenting the female figure naturally, more feminine. But in the IFBB kind of, or this NCP sort of stance, if you like, I'd say my least favorite was the front pose. Mm-hmm. I think the front pose can be quite, unless you're a top level athlete, mm-hmm. it can be quite blocky. Yeah. I love the side pose. Mm-hmm. Love all the side poses. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a good idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's we learn something new every day, because with the UK, like I said, in the US they don't have any like the flexing basically, or any of like the ab things. I mean, everything is just stationary, and then you like quarter turn. So yeah, I mean it's great to know that there's different posing techniques or different poses that they do, again, like all throughout the world for all these different competitions. But these are probably two of my favorite questions that I love to ask coming up. I mean, one of the things that I found out when I started getting bigger and stronger, the one negative thing for me was that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're gonna get asked to open a lot of pickle jars or a lot of water bottles or anything of that sort. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months before I move out. So every time they come home with food, I'm basically lifting in, all the groceries. Have you found that just because based off of the way that you look, people just assume that you can do favors for them?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, all the time. Do you know something really funny that happened to me a couple weeks ago? I should probably not be advocating this, but I was going out with some friends. I went to a bar. We were having some drinks to celebrate a couple things, and we were doing like asking for some shots. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I said, the guy said to me, if you flex your biceps, I'll give you these shots for free. Yeah.
Hey,
So that was it. I did my biceps, and I got the whole round in for free.
Well.
I mean, it's funny because when you have muscle, it's funny the reactions you get. Mm-hmm. Some people think you're genuinely strong and you can pick up everything, and like you say, you'll be the friend that gets asked to do all the picking up, which I do get asked that quite a bit. Or people kind of react in a bit of awe, like starstruck almost, like how the hell did you get muscle like that? And I suppose that was kind of one of those. And I think it's, some people turn their nose up at it. Mm-hmm. Some people don't like it. Some people, you've got to be, if you do what we do, which is quite unique, and it's a very small percentage of people like the aesthetic build muscle look, you've got to be ready for the good stuff and the negative stuff that comes with that. And I've always been quite aware of that. And, everyone is entitled to their own opinions and stuff, but certainly if I can be the strong friend that can pick everything up and get a round of shots in because of my biceps, then yeah, I'm good.
Hey, yeah, that works. I mean, it got to the point where, like I said, also being like 6'3" myself, just looking at me without, if I were to wear like a sweater like I am right now, people would all automatically just assume that I could pick stuff up from just being that tall. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's gotten to the point where I did realize, that my friends do recognize, that I work out a lot. So, it's a positive thing that I take from it. But also, I mean, like you said, one of the reasons why I love to have, bodybuilders on the show or just muscular people in general, and especially the women, is because, like you kind of sort of pointed out, society-wise, a lot of the time, people just aren't able to look past the muscle when they see you in public or whatever. They just, that for them just stands out so much that they can't really comprehend that there's like a human behind it. That they don't really get to know like the real human being behind it. That's why I love having guests like you on, then, for people to realize like, hey, they're just normal people, just like everyone else. They just might work out more than we do, or they might look a little bit more muscular than we do, but deep down, I mean, behind all those muscles, they're just an average person, just like you and me. I mean, it's
absolutely. I think as well, when I go to the gym and I'm wearing my hoodie, I don't even look like I train. Genuinely, I look like just a small blonde girl there, like picking up the weights. I'll take my top off and I'll be like pumped because I've already done like however many sets, and you can see people being like, because it's funny. I do find it quite funny, but you're absolutely right. It's something you do. It's not who you are. It's something you enjoy, but it doesn't dictate the person that's actually inside. And I think there's a misconception that, if you train hard and you build muscle, you must just be like this kind of meathead sort of thing. It's a total nonsense. I actually think it's the flip reverse. You've got to be driven, motivated, focused. You have to have a work ethic. You have to also be quite intelligent minded to be able to specifically train. I think somebody who trains hard and showcases an ability to aesthetically build their physique must also be able to apply those attributes to other areas of their life, and like in business, in relationships, in everything else, you've got to have an element of work ethic and responsibility and motivation and all these things. And they do. The skills that I have in my other areas of life, in my business life, in my, just generally what I do, transfer into all areas. So my work ethic in the gym is what I apply to my work ethic in my general lifestyle as well. So yeah, I think it's the opposite. I think behind a great physique is also a great mind too.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And now probably my favorite question to ask, and again, before I ask, it's a multi-million-dollar idea out there for anyone who's thinking about it. But when it comes to clothes for fit women or women with muscle, your clothing options can be limited. I always like to say, if you have big shoulders, dresses can be out of the picture. That's one thing we hear all the time. Jeans are another thing that we hear of jeans where, I mean, they're almost impossible, especially to wear. What are some ways that you sort of compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Oh gosh, good question. I have kind of like two sides of my wardrobe. I have the lean Steff wardrobe and the big beastie Steff wardrobe. Hard one, because I find the most difficult thing for me is back. It is something I have a problem with sometimes when I go dress shopping. I don't like, because I'm so muscular on my back, I don't like being in backless stuff or whatever else. For me, and this is something actually somebody asked me this the other day, like cap sleeves, like nice little cap sleeve tops, or like V-necks for people who are broader or who have bigger shoulders or back, for women who have bigger backs and shoulders, they are really elegant and they actually bring the waist in. So I tend to go and find tops that or nice cap sleeve dresses or things like that just kind of make my shape look quite natural and although I've still got the muscle, quite natural. Same thing with like legs. Jeans are a nightmare. So they're kind of like, I'll tell you what I buy and they're great. And I don't know if you've got them in the UK, but Freddy jeans.
No.
Have you heard?
No.
Okay, Freddies. Right. They're called Freddies. I think you can get them shipped worldwide. They're like these like jegging material jeans, but they have like this really kind of nice sculpted butt on them. They're really nice. And a lot of my fitness friends actually wear them as well. They make your legs and your bum and everything look good, and they fit around because because of course you build the muscle in your legs, they actually fit around the quads and the waist as well. So they're kind of cute. They're kind of cute as well. So yeah, that's something you can
That's awesome.
shout out
Again,
to your followers.
yeah, again, everyone, go and buy anything that has, fit. Like I said, it's a multi-million-dollar idea. I've had 2 fashion people on the show, and I always told them, I said, I have a multi-million-dollar idea. You guys just got to hop up on it. But so far, I mean, neither of them have taken it. But like I said, if anything ever comes up, I have so many guests on here that would be willing to go and get that stuff. So everyone, that's something that you really got to watch out for. But now, as we wrap things up here, though, we go to our audience favorite and my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire where I'm going to ask Steff here about a dozen or so fun questions, sort of more of a getting to know you, where I like to ask all my health and fitness guests, and we're going to see how she stacks up to all the other guests that we've had on. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Ooh. I've got one actually. It's called Had Enough.
Had Enough.
By Creature. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get it up right now. It's so good. I was listening to it actually before I came onto this podcast. It's called Had Enough, and it's a Creature remix, Kreature remix. So yeah, Had Enough, Creature remix. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's the one right there.
Yeah, I'll definitely, everyone out there, I'll leave a link for that song down below. Yeah.
It's like a big house classic, but it's great. It's just a really good, funky tune, and it gets me in the mood to go train. I've got a real eclectic mix of music I love. Sometimes when I'm going heavy on legs, I'll bang on my Stained and my Linkin Park and my stuff like that. But sometimes if I'm in a really upbeat mood and I just want a really cool workout, I'll get all the house music you can imagine and smash it together and just go for it. So yeah.
One of my bands that I had on earlier opened up for Linkin Park for one of their shows when they were on tour. So that was really, really cool talking to them. Yeah. So now for our second question, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Fitness related or anyone?
Either way.
Ooh, really hard. Probably The Rock. Because he's so cool. No, I mean, I'd really love, from an idol point of view, I would love to be able to train with Nicole Wilkins. She's somebody I've always looked up to, a shape I aspire to. From a celebrity point of view, I'm somebody who really inspires me, who's not in my field. He's a powerlifter, was as well, but he's incredible mind, is Brandon Lilly.
Oh, yep.
I have a lot of respect for him. I follow him. I've followed him religiously for years. He's somebody I would love to train with. Who else? I've got quite a few sort of people in mind.
I do have to say though that I am having Nicole Wilkins on the day before New Year's Eve this year. She's coming on and talking about her journey and everything. So I will definitely send you the link for that when that gets released. I'm really excited to have her on because, like I said, she's been inspiring for so many people that just to have her on. It's unbelievable. 100%. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Train any celebrity? Yeah. Ooh, that's really hard. Who would I train? That's such a hard question. I know it sounds crazy. It's like I'm not a massive into the celebrity scene, so I think a lot about fitness competitors. Maybe somebody funny, like a comedian of sorts or something.
Here's the only problem, because we get that answer all the time. We get Kevin Hart's or Ellen DeGeneres over here in the States, but the only problem with that is that you're not going to be able to get a workout in because it's going to be so funny. You're going to get the best ab workout of all time, but that's the only thing that you're going to get. But for me, if I could think of one, I'd probably be for at least British celebrities, probably, or no, he's not even British. I was going to say Hugh Jackman, but he's not even British. He's Australian. But I would say, I get those confused every once in a while because sometimes the Australian accent does sound similar. Some Aussies do have sort of a British accent where you're like, oh, are they British or not? But yeah, for British, I would probably a Jude Law or something like that. I think he'd be really cool.
Yeah. Somebody like that would be great. Yeah. I was just even thinking somebody who's just never really trained before, maybe one of the royal family, like Prince Harry. I'd love to train Prince Harry. I think he would be really good to train, actually. Something like that. That'd be cool.
We actually had one guest who's from the States said that Pippa was one that.
Pippa Middleton.
Yep. She wanted Pippa. Yeah, that was one of the answers that we had. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Oh, okay. I'd probably say sweet chili sauce because I like the light one as well. just a little drizzle on your salads, on your wraps. Oh, that's my like little go-to. But also Coke Zero. I like a good Coca-Cola, but like I like the Coke Zero because it's obviously low calorie. But if I just want like something yummy to drink, yeah, that's good as well.
I'm more of a Pepsi guy myself. But now, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
Ooh, I have a tattoo on my lip here.
Huh. What does it say?
It says passion. I don't know if you can see. Don't know if you can see that on camera.
Oh yeah, now we can see it. Yeah.
Nobody would know that. So that's probably something. What else?
What led to you choosing to get a tattoo inside of your lip?
I like small little tattoos that are personal to me and that are you can hide.
How painful was that getting that tattoo?
Actually, not too bad. You're talking to a girl here who like likes to lift lots of heavy weights. No, actually, it wasn't too bad. I kind of quite just enjoyed it, but I did want to get one on the sole of my foot as well, but apparently you can't get that done very often because it just falls out because you're walking on it all the time.
I'd be way too ticklish anyway too for when the came
out.
Like, nope, this can't. Yeah, this can't. So yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And now, I mean, this is a question that I'm just gonna add on because you are from Scotland. What would you say is probably the biggest misconception that people have about people from Scotland who've never been there, who've never really met Scottish people? What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions people have?
The misconceptions that we eat haggis all day long. I don't know, like sometimes when people say, I'm not joking you, some people have said, where's Scotland to me? Like, it's such a little place. Misconceptions that we wear kilts all the time, we eat haggis, we are all got the last name McDonald,
or McGregor,
McGregor. Those are probably some misconceptions.
Yep. Oh yeah, I have. I mean, the movie Braveheart is a good movie, but I always hate the fact that it does portray Scottish people wearing kilts back then, even though they didn't wear kilts until 300 years after that movie took place. Yeah. So now everyone thinks that Scottish people, all they did was wear kilts, when it's like, no, they only wore it for a specific time period. Or one thing is that everyone just assumes that you could play bagpipes or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We wear the kilts and things like that. We wear them on special occasions.
Or one thing that I hear all the time is that people just assume that Scottish people are like always angry just because whenever they see a Scottish person on TV, they always seem to like be really angry with their Scottish accent too. It just sometimes naturally just sounds like they might be angry when they're just talking. Like groundskeeper Willie from Simpsons is one thing that we always tend to think of or something like that. Yeah, where it's So I mean, 100%. I mean, I love having you're our first Scottish guest actually. I mean, I've had an Irish person on, and that was an interesting conversation because they had one of those like really Irish where it was almost it was almost like Gaelic when they were talking, almost where it was just like it was really hard to understand. But then I've had a Welsh person on, and that was interesting too, talking to that Welsh accent. And then we had a Liverpool kind of like a Beatles like Paul McCartney accent. I mean, so I'm trying to get all the accents on. And then like I said, my Aussies were that was just a really hard conversation just because
I bet it was.
It wasn't hard in the fact that it was hard to understand, but it was just I love that accent so much that I was like, okay, can you just talk more? Like
just keep talking.
Just keep talking. Pretend that I'm not even here. Just like ramble on as much as you want. 100%. But now, what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
The transparency. So I think for me, transparency, but also community. The thing is, the bodybuilding world is so small. We are all, we're a small sport. It's a very unique sport, and there's a lot of like politics involved in it, and I just don't see the point in that. There is always going to be politics in any high level performing sport anyway, but I think there could be a lot more transparency, a lot more people that are honest about their journeys. It would help a lot more people, and it would really give a more clear view of what bodybuilding is and what it's all about. And certainly I think, bodybuilding is getting bigger and bigger and bigger with more of these kind of classes that from a commercial point of view are kind of becoming more popular. And I think what comes with that is, of course, the monetary side of it is fantastic for the sport, but it's diluting actually the essence of good, strong bodybuilding as well, like the actual reason why bodybuilding is around in the first place. And so I think for me, it's remembering the sport for what it's all about, being passionate about it, sharing your journey and everybody being a little bit more transparent and So supporting competitors, one another, like competitors supporting one another rather than being so kind of, I suppose, rival in some cases. But I think it gets better as it goes on because it's opening up to more people. So yeah.
Absolutely. And now, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
Oh, I'm a Netflix lover. So Orange is the New Black was on my like kind of my last list. But I love watching so many different things. I'm a bit of a kind of a bit of a documentary geek. I like a lot of documentaries. I like a lot of like there's quite a lot of prison documentaries on at the moment. They fascinate me. Like they absolutely fascinate me. I just recently watched the CrossFit Games as well. The CrossFit Games on Netflix too, which was really inspiring too because I like looking at the different sports and seeing the competitors' mindset fascinates me as well.
I'm mentally preparing myself because I'm having on one of the girls I'm having one of the girls and one of the guys. The girl is 16 and was the winner last year of the 15-year-old for CrossFits at the CrossFit Games, and then she was like second place for the 16-17. So I'm just mentally preparing myself for the fact that I'm going to be talking to a 16-year-old girl who is stronger than me in almost every lift. So I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm 24 years old, so it's like. I'm just trying to prepare myself for it's all right, Ryan. This girl may be 8 years younger than you. She may not be able to like legally drink even in the United States, but yes, she is stronger than you. So just let it go. So I'm just gonna be like, okay, it's fine, everything's fine. But yeah, so that's awesome too. I mean, have you ever seen Beyond Scared Straight or Scared Straight, that TV show?
Which one?
Scared Straight.
Scared Straight? No, I haven't.
It's a show where they take at-risk kids into prisons, and they basically the kids that haven't been arrested yet or done anything, but like kids that like have got caught doing so many things, they've been in juvie, and they basically just let the prisoners have at the kid. Like the prisoners can't touch the kids, they can't do anything, but they get in the kids' faces and they yell at them, and they try to scare them straight, so like they don't get in trouble anymore.
Kind of wise up.
Yep. Yeah. It is one of the most entertaining shows ever, and if you could ever get a hold of it, it is so entertaining to watch these kids.
I'll go check that out.
They always have pre-show interviews with these kids where they act like all tough. They're like 13 years old or whatever, and then most of them are like crying like halfway through the experience in prison just because they're getting yelled at and just. But it's very, very entertaining TV. I recommend it 100%. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Oh, I might be pretty stereotypical here, but I do love Friends. I am a Friends girl. TV show, like for a bit of a laugh, I do like a bit of Family Guy. But again, I'll be honest with you, I've never really been a massive TV watcher. I tap in and out of it. I do, though, love a good podcast. Yeah. I am a huge Joe Rogan fan.
Oh, yeah.
I do love listening to a lot of different podcasts. I also like to read a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly trying to just educate myself on different topics, just kind of keeping my mind active. I'm really big on self-development as well. So I do a lot around understanding mindset and strength of mind, strength of character, all that kind of stuff, which really fascinates me too. So rather than, I'm not so much of a TV girl, more of a kind of listener and a reader.
I mean, yeah, I love Joe Rogan. That's one of my favorite things. So I mean, that's one of the end goals for me. Was like, if I could get on Joe Rogan, that would be like the greatest. That would be like the greatest thing. Joey Diaz, whenever he has Joey Diaz or any one of those, any one of his buddies on, I love I could listen to Joey Diaz talk, 24/7. It's one of those things. But so an interesting story actually for friends wise. Next Wednesday, I'm having the lady that played Ross's first wife, Carol, the lesbian, on the podcast.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yep. So she started a charity, and I've been emailing her back and forth the last 2 months. And I told her, I was like, yeah, you can come on and talk about your charity and promote that. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'd love to. And I go, you do realize, though, half the questions are going to be friends questions, though. And she goes, oh, yeah, I get that all the time. So I'm just gonna hurl at her like like 30 to 40 of my favorite friends questions. Just get the inside story. So, yeah, I'll definitely send you that one, too, because, I mean, that's going to be so fun talking to her who's been – I mean, it's like when you're on a TV show that's that big, I also want to just ask her, I mean, it's like, how has that changed you as a person?
Yeah, because it's such a massive
It's like you will never be able to escape that. Yeah, it's so – it's just one of those things. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Ooh, guilty pleasure movie. I'm kind of into your I know it sounds, again, I'm a bit crazy, but I like the Tartan Asian extreme films. So like House of Flying Daggers.
Oh, yep.
It's stunning, absolutely stunning. Lost in Translation, one of my very favorite films. Donnie Darko.
Ooh, yep.
Mulholland Drive.
Good one.
So I've got like a real eclectic mix of movies, but I do like a lot of the more arty movies, the international movies. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of
Can I just say, I mean, the first time I watched Donnie Darko, I didn't even know what I watched. Like, it's one of
Yeah.
those movies where,
Oh no, it's like,
yeah, you need to, like, I need to look it up and find out, like, what it exactly was all about, because I'm like, what just happened here? And then when I was in college for my film class, that was one of the movies that we watched, and I was in a
oh,
film.
to study it.
Yeah, I was in a film study class with like 500 people, so we were just in this auditorium, and they played down on the projector, and then all the time, like, there were guys in the background going like, "What the hell was that all about?" Like, no one even
Yeah.
got. But then we talked about it, and then, like, I was the one that actually, out of the whole 500 people, where I got up and I explained it to a lot of them, just because I was like, okay, I actually looked it up, and, like, this is what they were trying to. But, like, Patrick Swayze is one of my favorite actors of all time.
Oh
So
yeah.
any movie that he's in, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. But my guilty pleasure movie, I mean, all of my guy friends, close your ears. Princess Bride. Princess Bride. I could quote that whole movie. I mean, it's one of those things. I love that. That's my ultimate date night movie. Or I'll just give you an example. When I was typing my thesis paper in college, that movie came on, so I paused my thesis paper for 2 hours just to watch that movie. I mean,
Yes.
it's one of those movies.
Good work.
One of those movies that I really, really deep down enjoy. But all my guy friends,
like, if I was to have like one real like Dirty Dancing is one of my faves.
Oh yeah.
That's the one I would watch on my own and over and over and over and over and over again, because it's like every girl's perfect like little love story on a holiday camp, but then with the dance element is just my thing. So like,
can we just say though that Patrick Swayze's character was like 25 years old and the girl was like 16, so that would not fly nowadays, people. If they tried that out, the dad had absolutely every right to say like, no, you are not dating my daughter. Look at how old you are.
It would be so true, but like, Patrick Swayze is an absolute legend in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a sucker for a good mullet too, and his hair back then. I mean, my God, yeah. That would be the one. That's the one guess. Like, if he was still alive, I would email him every day. Just be like, please come on, Patrick. Like, I'll do any. Yeah, he's one of those 100%. So now for our final question in the questionnaire, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Fashion trends. Okay, so that's hard because I'm not so up on the fashion trends these days. Like, some of the kids, like what they're wearing nowadays, I'm like, wow, is that really going down? Am I so far out of this? But I'm quite eclectic with my clothes, but like, because I'm of course a coach and a trainer, I'm always in active wear. I'm always in gear. So I suppose my favorite kind of trends like that are Under Armour, Adidas. I do like some of the more off-the-cuff brands like Lululemon and things like that. Love wearing all their stuff. And if I'm like going out and I'm just having fun in town or whatever, I do like to be kind of streetwear, kind of like big baggy tops with a bit of a beanie hat, little thing like that. That's my style. Pair of like Doc Martens. But if I'm going out nice, I do like my nice Reese dresses. I don't know if you've got Reese in the UK. Have you got Reese?
No, we have. I don't know what we have for dresses. I am not really into fashion myself either. So
no. Well, Reese is a really, really lovely make in the UK. REISS.
Oh, yeah.
Their clothes are gorgeous. So I wear that. But most epic like fashion fail, I think if I just go back to my whole teenage years, that was probably it.
Oh, yeah.
Past the 15, 16-year-old.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, my favorite, since I'm in I'm in the coldest part of the United States. I mean, it'll get to, I don't know how to convert it from Fahrenheit to Celsius, but it'll get to like negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter here. So, I mean, that's like negative 30 or negative 40 or something like that. Instead. Yeah, so it gets very, very cold. So, I mean, flannel is probably one of my favorite things to wear just because it's so comfy. It's like we have the saying here in Minnesota, you only got to look good 4 months out of the year because the other 8 months you're going to be in a sweater anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. But probably my least favorite, my dad used to have a fanny pack back in the late 90s. Fanny packs, I'm sorry, I know they're making a little bit of a comeback. Girls can rock fanny packs, don't get me wrong, but guys, it's like, come on, you gotta.
Well, I always find it really funny in the UK because we don't call them fanny packs, so it's like a really funny thing to hear. You know what I mean? It's just a total foreign thing to us.
I don't get why they're called fanny packs at all, because your fanny's supposed to be your bum, but it goes into your front. So I don't. Yeah. I don't get that. So 100%. But now, we wrapped up the questionnaire. Now, before we wrap things up, though, I know, like you said, you're in your off season, but are there any shows that you're currently eyeing and competing in? Do you have any dates ready?
Yeah, okay. So I'm one of these competitors that I'll only decide on my show when I feel that I've made the progression to really make a difference to my shape. and B, when my mind is ready to go all in. If my mindset's not there, I won't start. But the aim of the game really was I've had a whole off season this year, was to come back to the natural stage, the pro show, the DFAC, which is the drug-free world coalition. That's for the natural side of the pro show. That's the DFAC in Miami next November. There's also the UK DFBA, which is the UK Drug Free Association, and that's their pro show is the WNBF, which you've probably heard of.
Yep.
So the WNBF will be again next year as well, which is one that I would hope and aim to go for. In the UK, there's a couple of competitions that affiliate with going to the IFBBs. And that's the PCA and also a new show called Two Bro Pros in the UK. I don't know if you've heard of those, but certainly they affiliate with going to the IFBBs and Arnold's and things like that. Now, I've never stepped on stage yet in an assisted show, never ever. So that's going to be a huge jump for me to see where my physique will place competitively up against some of the girls that are probably going to be much bigger versions of me, but genetically I do feel I've got a shape and a condition I can bring to be competitive. So we'll see how we go. But that's probably on the cards for next year, if not early the year after.
Absolutely. And for one of my last questions, I mean, we are 2 weeks away from Christmas and all of the festivities that brings. What are some ways that you celebrate Christmas? Because I know for different countries, some people might celebrate it differently, but do you find that in the UK, I mean, from all the movies that you might see about Christmas in the United States, is the celebration in the United Kingdom similar to the US?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I think we do love to celebrate it. In Scotland, we have what's called, we do Christmas, and then we've got something called Hogmanay. Hogmanay is like New Year's Eve celebrations, and we all do like a dance called Old Lang Syne. Where so we have like fireworks and we sing Old Lang Syne and we all celebrate the New Year. So it's a wee bit like, I suppose it's a little bit like Thanksgiving, if you like, the way you guys do it. But we celebrate Christmas. I'm going up home to Edinburgh next weekend to see my family, to spend time with friends, to eat quite a lot and get myself prepared for the new year. And just, really enjoy it. I think this is a time where you kind of consolidate on the whole year, don't you? And you look at what's been great and you learn from the things that haven't been so great. And you kind of put things in a box and then get ready to start again.
Absolutely. And is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
I'd love to just give a shout out to my whole family who have really supported me this year. I've been through a few toughies this year, so it's been a biggie, but you know what, from a fitness point of view, the people around me who have been training with me, all of my clients who have given me 110%, they motivate me the most. The people that show me like that they can do it too, I think. You know, bodybuilding is a very solo sport, and you train and you do your whole thing, but the people around you motivate you the most, the people that are with you and support you through it. So I suppose just a shout out to everybody in my life at the moment, just smashing their goals.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. And everyone, go follow her on Instagram. Go follow her. I'll leave all of her links down below. I highly recommend you go and give her a follow. Like I say, looking at some of her photos will inspire you to, get off the couch and stop eating those Twinkies and, adapt to more healthy and fit lifestyle. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, just go and give her a follow. And again, Steff, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. You were a really, really great guest, and I love having guests on, especially guests from other countries. And I mean, you were so great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely. So again, you guys, Steff Noble, go and follow her down below. Links down below. This is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.